Honey, my eyes are up here. Quadzilla, baby. Feel that burn. Yep, we're chasing the burn. We're chasing that field. Yep, nice job. Good. Keep cranking it out. Keep cranking it out. Yep. Oh, good. Oh, hey. Didn't see you there. It's getting a little bit colder outside. Thanksgiving's right around the corner, which means all the eyes are on the thighs, baby. It's thigh week. We're back with Anatomy Tuesday. Mark's gonna dive in.
Yes, very exciting. Always good to get on the thigh weight of the danger zone, so let's dive in. We got the muscle of the quadriceps this week. So rectus femoris is going to originate on the ilium. It's going to come down to our patellar tendon, going to cross two joints or two actions. It's going to flex the leg and the hip, and it's going to extend the knee. Then we have the vastus lateralis, the vastus medialis, and the vastus intermedius. All of these are going to originate on the femur, come down to that patellar tendon, and again, extend the knee and help stabilize the patella. Then we have the sartorius, kind of an outlier, longest muscle in the body, going to originate on the anterior superior iliac spine of the hip, and it's going to come down to the tibia. Because of its unique insertion, it's actually going to flex the knee, and it's also going to flex the leg at the thigh, abduct the thigh, and internally rotate the hip. So again, those are the basic functions, but we're not a basic program. We like dynamic stuff, so quads are going to be really important for that dynamic eccentric stability. We're going to be talking about it a lot this week. But super important when we talk about sports, athletic movements, going to keep us super healthy, so we got to work the quads always.
Good, so we just got to see Mark's beautiful quads in that intro, and really flipped a coin, and we're fighting over whose quads got to make the intro, but Mark won, but now he gets to be the Debbie Downer and talk about injuries, so he's going to cover injuries with quads right now.
So quadriceps, obviously a lot of musculature. We see a lot of strains and tears possibly, but one of the big things we're looking at is knee injuries. The quads play a huge role, especially on the preventative side of keeping our knees healthy. So a couple things I want to touch on. First one being that eccentric strength that I talked about. The quads are a dynamic eccentric stabilizer. So when we're looking at sports performance, and every time we cut, plant, land, the quads are really important for absorbing and displacing that force effectively. So quad strength is really important, but another thing that's super important is that endurance in the quads. We see a ton of injuries due to fatigue. So when we get in those first couple weeks of the season, maybe that first preseason game, whatever, the risk of injury for ACLs is through the roof, and that's because we see this huge spike in volume early in the season, and our off-season programs aren't giving us enough volume. So not so much a matter of weakness in the quads, but more fatigue issue. So that's one thing we really need to focus on. Another one is our movement patterns. So inefficient movement patterns, when we're talking about that knee valgus and that pelvic unleveling, those are two things that we can focus on in the off season and in the weight room. We can't really replicate that chaos on the field. Sports are very high speed and instinctive, but while we're in the weight room, if we can focus on proper positioning, the more we can do that, the more it'll translate onto the field. Finally, we're talking about symmetry and synergy between the muscles. So we talked about that quad to hamstring ratio in our hamstring video, and that's very important. We're very quad dominant, so can't stress enough the importance of the posterior chain, especially in injury prevention. So make sure you're supplementing both adequately in your program. I know Yoakum Strength's got the perfect mix of it. And then symmetry between the quads. When we look at people with previous knee injuries, one of the big reasons for re-injury is that we have a imbalance between the quads themselves. So really important if we're injured, if we're have a dysfunction, that we address that right away, and that we're properly training both quads, more so the injured one, to keep those balanced.
Good, so now that Mark got us all down talking about injuries, let's boost our spirits a little bit and tackle sports performance and what these big beefy quads are for. And we need to really look at acceleration and deceleration. This is big for team sport athletes. When we go to track and field and we reach that max velocity, these quads are more neuromuscular and just more about timing of it. It's more hamstring and glutes, so really dive into those videos. But these quads, acceleration, deceleration, we need to think of these as a connector between that foot, shin, and the hips and glutes. So this is what our quads, our big beefy muscles, are for. We need to absorb that force and be able to put it back through our body, and that's what our quads, right in the middle of everything. That's really why they're important. It puts us and allows us to be in a position to cut and change a direction But as we talked about in other videos, if you scroll down, I have a whole video on change of direction and acceleration. Getting into these positions is just one part of the equation. If we really don't have the cognitive abilities to react into a stimulus that's coming at us, these quads really aren't going to do us any good. It's going to allow us to get into a position and produce that force, but we're going to be so slow at the neuromuscular firing that we're really not going to react, and that's where you get a weight room warrior that isn't really great on the field. So really train that cognitive side, come to Yoakum Strength, we got you, we'll go over that, but really combining all things into acceleration, deceleration. Good, so now the part you guys all tuned in to do, it's like, how do you get quads like Yoakum? Like, that's really what I want to do. And I'm here to tell you, lacrosse, nah, I'm just kidding. Mark's gonna dive in over here. He's gonna pick up eccentric overload. We talk eccentrics all the time. You really wanna grow these quads, you wanna get some blood flow in them, eccentric. So Mark's gonna step back. We're gonna do a 6-second eccentric, super overloaded here, overload, overload, overloads, to the point where he can't even get it back up. He's gonna drop, stand back up here, and he's gonna get another set. Really, this is gonna build that eccentric strength to get that blood flow, get that pump, get that hypertrophy effect into the muscle. Another one that we can do here is a partner push deceleration. So we talk deceleration all the time with these quads. How can we absorb this force coming through? Let's do a partner assisted deceleration. I'm gonna push Mark in the back here. He's gonna absorb in a good direction, just like that, stick. Then we're gonna come back up, thigh up, push, stick, just like that. The last thing we want to talk about, and this is for people that are more of the bodybuilders, or if you're coming back from an ACL injury and you really need to get that quad strength up, it's what angle is that shin at when we're doing quad work, unilateral work. More of a perpendicular shin, more of that shin coming forward here is going to load up that quad and get that quad pump, and more of a vertical shin is going to be a more posterior chain for our exercises. So most athletes that we discuss need that posterior chain, so we're going to look for that more vertical shin to start. But like I said, bodybuilders, ACL, people that really want to get that quad pump, get that quad strength back up, let's move that shin a little bit farther forward and we'll get more work done in here. Honey, eyes are up here. And so is Mark. Mark's going to talk about how do we prevent these injuries and really look at our programming to keep our quads, our knees, our lower body healthy.
Yeah, so really what we touched on before, a couple things. First thing, like we just touched on, that eccentric strength. So developing that eccentric strength, getting ready to handle the forces that come with the sport is really important. Key is developing that strength, developing that volume, getting ready for the season. And like we said, that's that symmetry and synergy between the quads and between the quad and hamstring. So I really challenge you guys, take a look at your program, make sure you have the right amount of both mixed in. If you don't, go to Yoakum Strength, figure that out because he's got it right. And then the third thing, so all those things are really important, but there was a study done, I think it was Pittsburgh Medical Center, and they did a study on the most effective way to actually prevent ACL injuries, and that's through a really good dynamic warm-up. So the importance of that, getting your body warmed up, getting ready to absorb those forces, getting that musculature ready to handle pre-competition, pre-practice, whatever it may be, is really, really important. So take a look at that as well and really focus on that. We want to make sure, again, that we're in proper positioning so our knees are out, our hips are level, doing all those things pre-competition, pre-practice, and having that carry over onto the field is really, really important.
Good, so like we talked about, the main thing we're looking at here with these quads is sports performance and preventing those knee injuries. But a lot of people complain about tight quads or sore after a day, and if our quads are tight, which most people they are because we overwork them, it's going to compromise our movement patterns, and the quads aren't going to fire as well as they should, which is going to mess up the hamstrings. It's going to mess up that whole firing pattern for sprinting. So we're going to show you a couple stretches, a couple partner mobility things that we can do to really open these up before we train. Mark's going to show them a couch stretch here. This is one of the go-to Yoakum Strength exercises that just warm us up just a little bit, open up these hip flexors, open up these quads. Coming up, that back foot up here. If we're on a wall, we can do it on a wall. We can do it as a couch stretch when we're watching TV. But two things we're looking at here. Squeezing this glute while we're doing this, keeping that glute tight. We're pulling that back foot forward and almost pushing that hip flexor and quad open. This is going to be a much more, for most people, much more quad dominant stretch just because we're not able to get in that hip flexor. And we'll cover hip flexors next week, so stay tuned for that. But this is a nice quad stretch that we're staying here. Recommend 1 minute before workouts, but if we're doing it after, we're going to spend 2 minutes in this position. All right, Mark's going to come out of here. And this is another Kelly Starrett exercise. Mark's going to lay on his back here. And this is really something that we do after our workouts to really bring ourselves back, open up these quads, and any Yoakum Strength athlete knows how much they hate these. But these are the partner quad smashes. So you just got a partner here. We're just going to spend 2 to 5 minutes each leg, digging into these tight spots and really putting in pressure. opening these things up, baby. Yeah, spending nice time here, spending some time on these quads. These are two things that you guys hope to really use right now. Good, so anybody that's watched these know that we didn't say stream theory at all, so I apologize for the word. We should have mentioned it. We really did, but stream theory.
Yeah, stream theory, maybe a couple of lacrosse balls in there too. It's all good stuff. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe on YouTube. Check out a couple of other videos. A lot of carryover from this week and previous weeks, so dive in.
Thanks for watching. Quad Week.